A short time ago, you were hearing from business owner, grandmother and daughter who's caring for her mum, Peter Green, Queensland grandmother, a powerhouse of a woman from what she was sharing. And she was saying about the importance of boundaries and knowing when you need to ask for support. And it's a situation that so many of you are telling me that you're in. Your children, they might be ready to get out of home, or they might even be younger. But in some ways, even if they are out of home, you're still looking after them or keeping an eye on them to make sure they're on track. On top of that, you might be also providing support for your parents or other older relatives. You might also be working even full time. If you are in that situation, you're probably feeling the care squeeze. Psychology consultant and author Dr. Jo Lukens is with me now. Thanks so much for your time this morning.
Good morning, Susan.
So what does the term care squeeze mean, and why is it becoming more common?
It is becoming more common, and I think that's because there's a growing number of adults who are simultaneously caring for both their children, as you said, and ageing parents, and often throwing some full-time work into the mix as well. So that's where we get this term, the care squeeze. With people living longer and families and all the joys that family brings, we also know that this trend puts a lot of additional emotional and financial pressure on many families and many individuals.
And it does come from a place of love, but there are also challenges faced by people who are experiencing the care squeeze. Can you talk us through some of those challenges?
Yeah, there are those challenges. As you say, it comes from a place of love. It comes from a sense of obligation. We see many of those factors play out in this scenario because, of course, what we're all trying to do is balance our time, one of our most precious commodities, and our energy between all those key domains of our lives, whether it be our work, our children, our families, and as your guest Peter was saying before, the things that we want to do for ourselves. How do we look after our own health and well-being? So people often struggle with those feelings, the guilt, the exhaustion, and feeling that they're not doing enough for anyone. And we know that those pressures and, as I said earlier, the financial strain and that lack of personal time are all increasing pressures.
Yeah. Nearly feel like it's everybody in that care squeeze would be looking for an opportunity to come up for air and have that gasp of air, but also have a moment where you're not being wanted, and maybe also being having a chance to prioritise some time for yourself without feeling selfish.
It's such an important point, and I think the most helpful thing that we can do moving forward, if you're in this situation, or even if you're not, when we often do think of self-care as selfish, don't we? And self-care is not a luxury. It really is a necessity. It's what we need. First of all, we need it for us. We need to be looking after ourselves just because we're all awesome and we just need to look after ourselves. But also when we are in that position of looking and caring for others, we want to be the best version of ourselves. We want to be physically capable. We want our own health to be good. So when you give yourself permission, and I think that's a big part of it, when you give yourself permission and you find that available time to recharge yourself, you'll be more present for yourself, you'll be more present for others. So in some ways, if even if you need to conceptualise it, I need to look after me so I can look after others, if that helps you get the self-care done, then sometimes that can be a helpful way to approach it.
Yeah, like they say to you on the plane, put your oxygen mask on before you give it to somebody else, because then you've helped yourself and now you can help other people.
Absolutely, and that is such great advice. Every time I go on a plane, I pay attention to the security briefing and the safety briefing, one, because just in case, but also because I actually think that's some of the best life advice you can ever get, is that put the mask on yourself before helping others.
Yeah. Psychology consultant Dr. Jo Lukens, how can families communicate better to share the load of all of the caregiving that's needed?
Yeah, so your previous guest, Peter, spoke really beautifully about it, about the need for boundaries. And I think that comes from having that open and honest communication with the people in our lives, setting those expectations. I've always had a little phrase that I've used for myself and others that I've worked with about when it comes to if we're feeling challenged by how we're being treated, we teach others how to treat us. We teach people how to treat us. So if we teach people that we're there for every given moment, then any wonder that becomes the expectation. So I often think that when I'm being challenged around behaviours of others, I hold that little mirror up and go, am I contributing to this? So I think when we can have a bit of self-reflection, we set clear expectations, then it helps us then to prevent things like resentment and burnout and those sorts of things, which we do sadly often see in that caregiving role for people.
Yeah. And it can be, I think, tricky as well with boundaries with families at times, especially depending on what the relationship has been through over the decades, especially when an adult is looking after their older parent.
Yeah, absolutely. And fair play. They looked after you to start with. That's why that can become so challenging for us, is that's the thing with families, isn't it? That we lean into each other and we do the selfless things, the things that are often not thanked and so forth. So I think it's really normal to understand that these situations can bring about a lot of strong emotions for us, and some uncomfortable emotions at times too, things that maybe we don't feel like we're able to say or to articulate. So it can be a challenging time, and that's where that open and honest communication would be really great place to start. And if you need to go and find someone to talk to, some professional support and assistance as well can be really useful.
But yeah, and Peter earlier had mentioned that she saw a psychologist, and that was one of the things that they identified. What advice would you, or what message would you like to share with people who are currently experiencing the care squeeze or know that might be in their future?
Yeah, so I guess understanding that the feelings that go with that are really normal, and to understand that it is the highs and it is the lows, that checking on yourself, checking on others who you know are going through similar kinds of things. What can you control in these situations? What are the small victories? All of those particular moments. And I think that this is a time when people will probably tell us that this is the time where you have the least amount of time, but it's more important to be able to have your own forms of connection and social support as we navigate through this stage of our lives.
Absolutely. Psychology consultant and author Dr. Jo Lukens, thanks so much for your time.
Good to chat with you.
Thank you. You are on ABC Queensland. Nearly news time.